Hi guys, this is gsndon.com and I'm here with the Huawei Mate 8, a 6-inch phablet for a full review. It's the highest end Huawei device you can buy right now, and it was launched globally at CES 2016, so it's a fresh handset. Once again, this is the review of the device and you can find it on amazon.com for a price revolving around $627. We're testing the version that has 3 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage, but there's also one out there with 4 GB of RAM and more storage. Now I want to talk about the design. This is a 6-inch phone with a metal body. It's similar to the Huawei Mate S but bigger. We got an aluminum unibody chassis and the thickness of this model is 7.9 millimeters. It weighs 185 grams, which is not too shabby for a 6-inch phone. The Mate S, meanwhile, was 7.2 mm thick and 156 grams heavy, but it had a smaller diagonal. It was also more compact, slimmer and lighter. Meanwhile, if you really want a comparison, you should probably compare the Mate 8 with the Mate 7. Actually, the Mate 7 and Mate 8 have the exact same thickness and the exact same weight, so nothing has changed in that area. This phone feels very light for a 6-incher. I have to say that doesn't feel like a handset close to 200 grams, which is a good thing. The grip is very good, possibly because of the texture of the back, made of metal, as I said before. And luckily, in spite of the 6-inch screen, your fingers can reach pretty much any area of the screen without a problem, which is nice. If you look closely at the back of the phone, you'll see a very subtle curve going on right here. Other than that, the back surface is matte with a nice glow to it that feels very premium. The phone comes in silver, gray, gold or brown, and now let's analyze each of its sides. Okay, so at the front we got the status LED right here somewhere in this area. Then we got the earpiece, the front camera and the sensors also in this white portion. The bezels of the screen are quite small, as you can notice for yourself, and this panel here uses 2.5D glass that has been diamond cut. Now we go to the back. There's the main camera, dual LED flash, fingerprint scanner, and the pretty discreet integration of the antennas at the top and bottom here with this slightly different coloring of the metal. Now we go to the top where you can find a microphone and the audio jack, while at the bottom we have the micro USB port and a bunch of grills for the speakers. Actually, only the right one is the speaker. This is for the purpose of decoration only, let's say that, and probably holds a microphone behind it. To the left side we have the SIM tray. It's actually a tray that holds 2 SIM slots, of which one can be used to hold a micro SD card slot, and it's opened up using a metal key. On the right side we have the volume buttons and the power button, all of them with excellent feedback in spite of being quite small and thin. Overall, this is an elegant handset, also pretty comfy. It's a bit compact for its 6-inch screen diagonal, and we find that to be pretty good. And also it's elegant and premium looking. Now, as far as the hardware is concerned, the device offered us a 6-inch Full HD screen as well as a Huawei Mate processor. The processor available here is the Huawei Kirin 950. It's an octa-core unit. It's a 64-bit processor that uses a 16nm process and relies on FinFET Plus technology. Of the 8 cores, we have 4 cores of the Cortex A72 kind, clocked at 2.3 GHz, and 4 cores of the Cortex A53 kind, clocked at 1.8 GHz. Keep in mind that Huawei also included here the i5 co-processor used for real-time location services and for an always sensing mode, a low power mode. The GPU involved with this device is a Mali T880 mp4, and the handset comes with either 3 or 4 GB of RAM or also 32 or 64 GB of storage. Its micro SD card slot, that's, as I said before, it's nested here within the 2 SIM slots, can offer up to 128 GB extra. We have an 8-megapixel front shooter for the selfies and a main 16-megapixel shooter as the main camera. On the connectivity front, there is GPS, GLONASS, we got Wi-Fi dual band, Wi-Fi AB, GNAC, Wi-Fi Direct, there is Bluetooth 4.2, we also have micro USB, NFC, 4G LTE category 6, and this is a dual SIM phablet. The sensors included are the fingerprint sensor, G sensor, gyroscope, compass, ambient light sensor, proximity sensor, Hall sensor and barometer, so we're totally covered by quite a few options. Now as far as the battery is concerned, this is a 4000 mAh unit, which is simply great. Keep in mind that the LG V10 and the Galaxy Note 5, both phablets, they have a 3000 mAh unit, we have a 4001. On paper, this battery should provide us with 17 hours of playback, video playback, 20 hours of navigation or 22 days of standby, and we also get quick charge of the 9V 2A kind. On paper we should be able to charge in 2.5 hours. Now let's see how the battery did in our test. Our test involves HD video playback in a loop with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 200 lux, and with that we scored 9 hours and 51 minutes of video playback time. So as I said before, we reached 9 hours and 51 minutes, which is good, but it's below the 2015 flagships. Well, at least it beats the Samsung Galaxy S5, the Samsung Galaxy S6 that scores 9 hours and 49 minutes. We also surpassed the Lumia 640 XL LTE with 9 hours and 49 minutes as well, and also beat the Huawei Nexus 6P with 8 hours and 48 minutes. In the meantime, the same 9 hours and 51 minutes are below the iPhone 6s Plus with its huge 15 hours and 8 minutes, below the Galaxy Note 5 with its 11 hours and 39 minutes, and the Asus Zenfone 2 Laser with its 11 hours and 11 minutes. In PC Mark, a test that simulates continuous usage, we scored a pretty impressive 9 hours and 3 minutes, which is simply great. We surpassed, for example, the Asus Zenfone 2 Laser in its 8 hours and 16 minutes. We also surpassed the Galaxy Note 5 that scored 8 hours and 6 minutes in the same test, and the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus with its 7 hours and 52 minutes. Still, we scored below the Asus Zenfone Max, which is a battery phone. That one had 16 hours and 24 minutes, and also below the Jony Marathon M5, another battery phone, also with 16 hours. And finally below the AllView P6 Energy with its 11 hours and 24 minutes. As far as the charging is concerned, this phablet requires 2 hours and 11 minutes to juice up, and as far as Huawei claims, with 30 minutes of charging you should be able to get about 1 day of use. Now as far as that 2 hour and 11 minute charge time goes, this means we charge faster than the HTC One M9 that requires 2 hours and 20 minutes, and faster than the OnePlus 2 with its 2 hours and 13 minutes. We also surpassed the HTC One M8 2 hour and 30 minute time. Of course, there are other smartphones out there that charge faster, like the Galaxy S6 Edge Plus 1 hour and 5 minutes, or the Galaxy S6 1 hour and 10 minutes, and finally the LG G4 with its 1 hour and 43 minutes. Obviously, we have special settings for the battery, and let's find them. We go to the advanced area, battery manager, and here we have an optimized feature that scans the behavior of the apps and the battery and makes recommendations of things to do to save even more juice. Then we have the power plan options. There's performance that slightly adjusts the CPU and network to maximize performance for gaming and online videos, smart that automatically adjusts the CPU and network for balanced performance, and ultra that only keeps the basic features and opts for a black and white tile based interface and the most basic of features. Then protective apps that are allowed to keep running even with the screen off. Power usage firewall is also a feature for power intensive apps. The consumption level and power usage details, all of them available here. And if you press this button, we have a power intensive prompt, the option to close excessively power intensive apps, and keep Wi-Fi on when sleeping. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. The battery here is pretty solid, maybe except for the video playback aspect, we expected a slight bit more. Now as far as acoustics are concerned, although it seems we have 2 speakers, we actually have only one, this one here, and we also have DTS acoustic technology on board. But let's see the music app. So this is it, very minimalistic, very emotion UI style, and very few options. got filter settings, timer, home screen lyrics, clear cache, and that's pretty much it. Then you can choose a song, enter it, and you have here this DTS icon that's triggered when rather listening to headphones, not usual playback. Now let's actually listen to a tune. And now the conclusions. We have a body that vibrates here. When you listen to music, you feel the sides vibrating, and I have to say that the volume is a mid-level one. It's not exactly very loud, it's just a bit loud. That's what I would say about it. The bass, I would say it's so-so. The clarity is quite good, and high notes and guitars are also well heard. Still, I find that the acoustic experience of this speaker is below the flagships of 2015, and I mean the best ones of them. Now, as far as the headphones go, these are the ones we got with the handset. If you saw our review of the Huawei P8 and the Huawei Mate S, they're exactly the same pair. Long body made of possibly plastic with a very long remote, one of the longest I've seen. Samsung also has long remotes on their headphones. Gets inserted like this, and sadly not a very comfy pair of headphones. They tend to stick out of the ear. They're quite big for the regular ear canal. So big plastic body, big remote, and as far as the experience goes, they're quite loud and clear, have an okay bass, good noise isolation, but in the end not very comfy. And since we have the headphones here, we may as well access the FM radio app, which is found here, has a very minimalistic user interface, and takes a while to find the station. The UI looks nice, but once again, the scanning of stations is a bit on the slow side. I have to say I regret the lack of an equalizer here, so we just have that DTS option, and it appears also in the video player, not only in the audio player. Now we also have a decibel meter test going on here, and it's this one. So after playing some audio tunes in a special audio file, we achieved 83.3 decibels both at the back and at the front of the phone. Obviously there's no muffling because the speaker is right here, and the good news is that even when you play games or watch videos, you will not cover the speaker with your hand because it's right here, so your hand doesn't get that far up. So this value, 83.3 decibels, surpasses the LG G Flex 2 with its 82.9 decibels, the OnePlus 2 with its 82 decibels, and the Huawei Mate S with its 80.7 decibels. Still, we scored below the HTC One M9 with its 86.9 decibels, below the Galaxy S6 with its 89 decibels, and below the LG G4 with its 87.8 decibels. So overall, I have to say that I'm slightly underwhelmed by the acoustic experience. I wanted more volume and comfier headphones if possible, plus an equalizer. Now it's time to discuss the 6-inch Full HD screen. This device has a panel made by JDI, it's an IPS Neo LCD with a pixel density of 368 ppi. We have a 2.5D panel with a 1501 contrast and 95% color saturation of the NTSC kind. So overall, 6-inch Full HD screen. Huawei does not adhere to the trend of Quad HD display, it appears. This is the video app that we use to play videos, and this is our usual test clip, and that's what it looks like. You can only set up here the playback speed here, and we got the DTS option that can be activated in movies. And as far as the actual experience goes, I have to say that these black edges all around the image are a bit annoying, particularly since they cut a bit into the aspect ratio, but the colors are pretty vivid, the screen is bright, we got wide view angles, typical for an IPS, and the contrast is also quite good, as well as sunlight behavior. However, I have to mention that unlike other IPS LCD panels, this one has deeper blacks, which is always a good thing. Pixels are of the RGB stripe variety, and we have proof for that. This is the pixels of the screen under the microscope, RGB stripe. We also use the lux meter to do some measuring and achieve 423 lux units, which is great for this phablet. We beat the OnePlus One and it's 404 lux, the Lumia 930 and it's 420 lux, and the iPhone 6, the Huawei Honor 6 with its 383 lux. We scored below the OnePlus 2 and its 465 lux, and below the HTC One A9 with its 505 lux, and also below the Huawei Mate S that had 455 lux. There are also settings to be done, and these settings involve the display obviously. We got color temperature that can be set up to 3 main settings: default, warm or cold, or you can use this area here to tweak the hue of the screen. Then we got wallpaper, view mode, which can be large, small or medium depending on your preference, font size, small, normal, large, huge or extra large, daydream, indicator light. There's also brightness, automatic or with that slider setup, sleep, auto rotate and wireless display, and that's pretty much it. I'm very happy with this screen, no objections here. Finally an IPS with deep blacks, and aside from the black borders, no objection whatsoever. Okay folks, time to talk about the camera. So we got a 16 megapixel shooter here with f2.0 aperture, optical image stabilization, BSI CMOS and dual tone flash. The main camera has a sensor that's made by Sony. It's the Sony IMX298. It measures about 1/3 of an inch and it has 1.12 micron pixels. The front camera also has a Sony sensor, the Sony IMX179. It's an 8 megapixel shooter and also measures about 1/3 of an inch and has 1.4 micron pixels and f2.4 aperture. Now as far as the camera application goes, you can see it opens up fast, and as usual we have this Rubik's Cube to use for our shenanigans. Here we go, and now it's time to analyze the camera user interface. Very minimalistic as usual for Emotion UI. We start off with this area, basically the capture modes: HDR, watermark, document view adjustment. Basically you see a computer screen or a blackboard or a page in a book, even if it's from an angle, it makes it straight on the screen. That's document readjustment. Super night, all focus that allows you to refocus after the shot. Audio note, it's a picture with sound. Panorama, professional, slow-mo, and super night is used to take pictures with improved exposure and shutter speed during low light conditions. Other than that, we also have the settings available here. And here we have the resolution that can be 16 megapixels in 4:3, 12 megapixels in 16:9, or 12 megapixels in 1:1. Then there's GPS tagging, perfect selfie, mute, audio control, timer, touch to capture, capture smiles, object tracking, touch and hold shutter button, volume button function, and ultra snapshot, as well as image readjustment, which includes options for saturation, contrast and brightness. Okay, aside from that, I have to focus a bit on the professional mode. It's basically your manual mode because it includes extra options. For example, here we now have a horizontal leveler and autofocus auxiliary light, and then we also have a grid option, and of course this semicircle with its bonus features. So this is the white balance area that can either include a bunch of presets or a Kelvin degree slider. Then we got this one for focus, we got autofocus, autofocus continuous, and manual focus with its very own slider as well. Then exposure goes from -2 to +2, and shutter speed from the 4000 part of a second to 8 seconds, quite impressive. Okay, we proceed to ISO, going up to 1600, and finally this is metering as far as I know. Okay. And once we got rid of that and we go back to the normal mode, the so-called auto mode, we have the main options here. So we have time-lapse, video, photo, beauty with this beauty slider that's useful when taking selfies, and light painting that has its very own sub modes. there's a tail light trails, which does exactly what the name says. You see a car moving around, you will catch light trails of its tail lights, light graffiti, silky water if you're taking photos of waterfalls, and Star Trek for those starry nights with falling stars. And then there are the filters, and we stop a bit on the video mode and check out its options. And I mean settings. Here we go. You can take videos in Full HD at 60 frames per second, Full HD at 30 frames per second with stereo audio or lower resolutions. There's no 4K here. Other than that, there's the stabilizer available in the video area. So basically those are all the things you need to remember, plus or minus 1 or 2 selfie options. So this is the selfie area. We got a beauty slider here, and we also have some adjustments for the image brightness, and the option perfect selfie allows you to create a sort of template, letting you play with blush, eyes and other things. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the actual experience. So the focus is reasonably fast, I would have to say. You can change focus reasonably fast, and the zoom is quite fluid. Picture taking is fast. And the resulting images look pretty crisp, even though these shots were rushed. Keep that in mind. Quite crisp. And if you keep the screen pressed, you will trigger these 2 frames, so you can adjust the focus and metering point by moving them around. Okay, enough with the playing around. It's time to go to the gallery and see what we've done with this camera. So it's time to enter the gallery and see the photos we've taken. I have to remind you that those were taken in mid-February on a very sunny day. So here we go, we got some pretty vivid colors here and crisp images even with the sun in front of us. And at some point we also tested that refocusing feature, as you can see right here. So you can focus on the tiger or on the bear, which are shown here, or in other areas. For example, there are youngsters playing football here, and by focusing on a certain area you can see them changing position. Once again, the colors look excellent, everything was crisp, and here you have a sample of regular shot and then HDR shot. Not much of a difference, but the clouds look a bit more realistic. Details were also fantastic, and check out this beautiful panorama with a generous resolution of 13,440 pixels over 2240 pixels. Here are the details. The sun was in the clouds, which made this area a bit darker, but in the end it was a success. We also have some pretty nice landscape shots, like these ones, and if you keep zooming in, you'll see that the level of detail is quite impressive. And the clouds, well, there are many phones out there, even smartphones, high-end smartphones that cannot capture the clouds well. Well, the Mate 8 doesn't have any problem with that, which is a big compliment. Even more colors, graffiti close-up, nice texture, and some more landscapes. And this is a selfie shot. I have to say that the texture of the skin and of the hair is excellent, and the background is also not very shabby. You can clearly see the ducks behind